Colonel Gaddafi is firmly back on the world stage, trying to be everyone's best friend. Earlier this year, he signed a treaty with Italy to stem the flow of illegal migrants heading to Europe. Thousands of Africans risk the dangerous journey across the Sahara to Libya, but if they make it to Tripoli, many of them then attempt to cross the Mediterranean to Italy or Malta. But after the deal with Colonel Gaddafi, migrants' boats are now intercepted and sent back to Libya. Thanks to the policy, Italy says there's been a 90% drop in immigrants arriving on its shores. But the human rights groups say it's a dirty deal. The most vulnerable are not protected, and returnees are locked up, often for years. Channel 4 News has exclusive testimony from former detainees who claim to have been beaten and raped by Libyan guards, as Jonathan Miller reports now from Tripoli.
There's a burning intensity to the prayers of supplication being offered by African Christians who've survived the trip to Libya. These men are halfway through an epic journey. They walk in death's dark veil.
Many times people are coming, Father, bless me because tomorrow I'm leaving. Where are you going? Europe. How? And they are smiling, and after they ask a blessing. Please pray for me.
War and repression in some countries and the peddling of dreams in others ensures that sub-Saharan Africans are surging into Libya. Tripoli's old Arab souk has a distinctly African flavour. Most here have their eyes set on Europe, but they're trapped because the door to their dreams has been slammed shut. Colonel Gaddafi is Europe's new best friend, and 5 months ago Italy did a deal with him, whereby would-be asylum seekers are forcibly returned to Libya. They're immediately locked up. Libya can be a sinister place. Anyone without the right papers can be rounded up and dispatched to detention centres.
I was selling vegetables in the souk when the police came. I had no papers, no passport. They put me in a shipping container and took me to prison. I asked myself, why am I here? In the end, I had to pay my way out of prison.
This is the detention centre to which Neftalem was sent. It's dangerous to film these places, but we've obtained pictures from inside. Conditions are pretty grim. There are many children. There are no laws to determine how long illegals can be held. This is Zlitan Detention Centre. Inmates call it Guantanamo. Colonel Gaddafi is on top of the world. He got the Lockerbie bomber back, had a big party marking 40 years in power, and topped it all with today's big speech at the UN. Africa's self-styled King of Kings presents himself as the continent's saviour. Now Italy has entrusted him with the care of the Africans Europe doesn't want. The trouble is, Muammar Gaddafi has not signed the UN Convention on Refugees.
As for political asylum, Africans have no problems with politics. None at all. That's one of the tricks and lies you hear. They say, we're here for political asylum. Africans don't have this problem. These are people who live in the jungle, in the deserts. They know nothing about parties, election, or opposition.
Crossing the Sahara Desert has already killed unknown thousands. The next stage is just as lethal. If they get it right, they'll make landfall on the southern Italian island of Lampedusa in just over 24 hours. It's pretty much due north, up there. If they drift too much that way, they'll hit Tunisia eventually. Too much that direction and it's Sicily or Malta. With the help of Italian money and equipment, Libya now patrols its 1,200-mile coastline for clandestini, as the Italians call them. The pushback policy has dramatically cut the number of arrivals, but human rights groups say that under international law it's illegal to send people back to a country they brand a repressive police state. These are Libyan immigration police, camped on a beach to stop the boats leaving. But some still make it out. 5 Eritreans were found in a dinghy off Lampedusa last month after drifting for 3 weeks. 78 had set out from Libya. The survivors claim they were ignored by 9 passing vessels. The dead, including pregnant women and children, were thrown overboard.
We are floating on the sea. We haven't fuel or anything.
And you saw all your friends dying on that boat?
Except 5 persons.
Because you had no water, nothing to eat?
And water and also food.
Italy's Catholic bishops recently declared that Europe's habit of shunning migrants is the 21st century equivalent of ignoring the deportation of Jews during the Second World War.
You would like to live in Italy?
Yeah, I like it.
In a broken apartment block in backstreet Tripoli, I met a young couple who'd love to be in Italy. Daniel from Eritrea, Adebe from Ethiopia. We've changed their names for their protection. Adebe's best friend died last month on that boat to Lampedusa. They've both just spent 3 years in separate detention centres. I met them again in a secure location where they told me their story.
When we arrived at the prison, they beat us with big sticks. The soldiers formed a line. They beat us as we went in, and they beat us again inside.
Adebe told me she'd escaped 3 times, but each time she was caught.
The soldiers, if they found you alone, they did whatever they needed. They did very bad things to you, and if you get pregnant, you give birth in the prison.
Adebe then translated Daniel's story.
When he was in prison, it was even worse. One day, 5 soldiers came to his cell with electric cattle prods, and they beat him. He collapsed.
Last month, a Somali website posted these mobile phone pictures of what it called the massacre at Ganfuda. 300 inmates, mostly Somalis, had apparently tried to escape from the Ganfuda detention centre. They were reportedly attacked by guards. Detainees said 6 were killed, 50 injured, and 12 were missing. Abdulati Al-Ubaidi is the government minister responsible for Libya's relations with Europe.
I can assure you, we are treating them like guests, not prisoners.
Human rights groups say conditions are not good in those centres and that there have been cases where people are beaten or given electric shocks even, where there is corruption. And there was one case I heard in Ganfuda where some Somalis were shot.
No, I think this might happen, individual cases. But we always consider them as guests in Libya,
Had you heard of the case in Ganfuda where...
No, I read about it, I read about it. I spoke with our colleagues in the Ministry of Interior.
Tripoli is littered with migrants running the gauntlet.
Where are you from?
Risking arrest by touting for work, desperately saving for the death boat to Europe. You see them sheltering from the blistering sun. The tools of their trade displayed at the roadside. They're just here, treading water, weighing risks, and dreaming of Europe, where they still believe the streets are paved in gold. At the Cathedral of Santa Francisco, African Christians take whatever the Catholic Church can afford: medicine, food, clothes, baby milk, and a blessing from the bishop.
Many times we are listening, we want to die, but we cannot go back to our country. We prefer to die. We prefer to die. This is tragic.
Europe's deals in the desert have been good for Libya, great news for corporate Europe, but are bad news for 2 million African migrants. Colonel Gaddafi's helped raise the drawbridge to Fortress Europe, but these desperate people have been left at the mercy of a regime that has not changed. And now Europe is